Evolutionary.org, Hardcore 2.0 coming your way. This is episode 89. Today we're going to talk about strategies to build legs with Beligas Pharma, excellent steroid brand. So we're going to start the podcast out. We're going to have a little fun. Mobster's going to tell us a little story on some bragging rights he has today. We're also going to get into being judgmental about legs. In the gym, and seeing kind of the trend away from, I can remember more in the 2000s where guys had big upper bodies and no legs. We're talking about how important it is to build up the legs, and we're going to kind of have fun with it, but we're also going to be serious. We're going to talk about our own personal experiences, how we've gotten stronger and bigger in the legs, and strategies we've used. And we're going to talk about mild steroid stacks from Beligas Pharma that you can try if you're new or more intermediate, or if you just want to do something mild. And we're going to talk about more advanced steroid stacks for growing your legs as well. For those of you who have experience and those of you who really want to take things to the next level and start hitting personal records when it comes to your big leg lifts. And then we're talking about, we're going to talk about Beligas Pharma. We're going to tell you the quality behind Beligas Pharma. So let's start the podcast out with Mobster. He has some fresh news, some really good news. Why don't you tell us, Mobster, what's going on?
Right, so the regular listeners that check out my logs on the forum will note that I was talking about a buddy showing me what's called a Sling Shop, and Mark Bell created the Sling Shop, which is essentially very similar material to a bench shop, but kind of elasticated, Steve. And you have two big fat loops, one which goes over each elbow, then the whole big band goes across your chest, and essentially it's a shoulder saver and an elbow saver, and it enables you to do way more weight than you would normally do, but without fucking up your shoulders and your elbows. And the trick, once you've got used to it, is to do kind of weights that you wouldn't normally touch, but for more singles, more doubles, more triples. And then you take the thing off if you're allowed to lift the sleeves or with or without sleeves, and you go back and your one rep max should be higher. So I had a little fool around with this last Friday, sufficient to say that it interested me enough that I ended up buying one over the weekend. And today was the first time of trying it. My best bench is 4 plates and a 10 on each side. That's 200 kilograms in kilos and 440 pounds for one rep. That would be this year, Steve, at the age of 59 when I hit that number. So today we went up to 220 kilos, Steve, 5 plates aside. If that was 45-pound plates, you're looking at 495 pounds. But the way that this is set up, etc., I believe it was 484 pounds. I fouled with 484, but decided I think I could do a little bit less. So we backed up to 210 kilos, which is 462 pounds, and I hit a 462 with the sleeves. This is just to give you a sort of indication of some sort of knowledge, working experience of lifts and using accessories and equipment to enable you to get one rep maxes. Just as an example, Stephen, to transfer the analogy over to legs, I'm in possession of cold 19-inch upper arms, and I'm a close grip bench presser. And I believe my chest, the last time I measured it, was 52. So we're probably looking at 52, 53-inch chest. And with a pump over, I've had my arms well over 20 inches. And just a sort of an idea for the strength stuff. So the reality of the situation is you can, obviously, if you're a bodybuilder, train your chest a certain particular way to enhance the muscular development. I'm just fortunate because of my strength training to be a big motherfucker. On the leg stuff, and this is just as an aside again, I have done, and we will get into this, training sessions on legs that have fucked me up and made me sore. Just one particular stressor springs to mind, Steve, in 4 hours. Equally this year, I did something called the Hatfield squat safety bar, and you hold the frame, you squat down, and then you stand up. And that was 826 pounds, which was 380 kilograms. And I'm kind of psycho shit thinking about maybe doing 900 pounds by the end of the year, and I'll be 60 in 6 days' time, Steve. So just to give people some sort of analogy of stuff out there. I'm also around competitive bodybuilders. So Steve and I, both with our experience, seeing what people have done, seeing what people don't do, which is what we're going to get into next. We know how to train legs for strength and for muscle. We know the attitude and the applications of effort and intensity and tricks and techniques that the top professionals use, both in person and by videos, and sheer knowledge and time under the bar that we've done. And we also know that, let's be honest, Steve, training legs, these are the biggest muscles in your body. By volume, by size, by weight, the biggest muscle in your body is your gluteus maximus. That's basically the one that makes your ass look big. And it's a big cone-shaped muscle that goes down into the thigh. If you was cut that off your corpse and you put it on a scale, it is the biggest by volume and the biggest by weight muscle in your body. So one of the arguments for legs is it fucks you up the most. Proper leg training is listen, the amount of oxygen that you're going to use, the amount of sweat you're going to use, the amount of glucose you're going to use, the impact on your central nervous system, it's just crazy, crazy hard, Steve. And it's at the second, probably we'll be back. Other muscles are secondary. We probably train our biceps hard. Biceps are the size of my fist. Okay, if I'm lucky, half the size of my fist. My upper arm, my triceps are bigger than my bicep, and so on. But then when you're talking about the legs, I've literally, and I said this earlier on, I've had a leg training session with drop sets and 50 rep sets. Steve, I couldn't walk down a hill. I had to take a bus down a hill back home after this training session. Got in, had some food, lay down on a sofa, and when I woke up, I'd literally fucking had a nap for 4 hours. When I woke up, I was sore in the legs. Okay, we can talk about epic leg training that we know, people like Tom Platz and others, world's strongest men that have tried to break Tom Platz's 500-pound 25 rep record and failed miserably. A powerlifter that spent a year and a half training to try and do that and failed miserably. True training is leg training is brutal. But if you look, with maybe half a dozen exceptions in the whole history of training, Steve, that every single person that's trained legs, again with just half a dozen exceptions, you have to train them fucking hard, fucking heavy, and with fucking reps, volume. And what we see, and this is what we're talking about, the judgment part, is we see people that do not train legs. I've seen people literally using their mobile phone, Steve, with one leg on the foot plate of a leg press, never mind squatting, and like I think it was 5 kilos on the pins, so 10 kilo total plus the foot plate, and he wasn't even paying attention to what he was doing. He was looking at his phone and talking to his buddies. Motherfucker, you use more effort than that getting off the toilet before you come to the gym. You use more effort than that getting out of the fucking car to walk into the gym. You will not grow legs doing pushy shit. The Planet Fitness thing, Steve, is there are gyms, and Planet Fitness has had this. Not every Planet Fitness is like this, but some are, because it's a franchise gym as much as anywhere else, where they've literally cut the pins down on the leg press. We see people, too high a percentage, I would argue, Steve. Yes, people are training. Yes, they are taking steroids. They're training hardcore. Their diets are great, etc., etc. But there's way too many people with quote unquote leg injuries, and way too many people that go to gyms that don't have racks, never squat, only use the Smith machine, and so on and so forth. Now, I'm aware of some of the arguments. I've had leg discomfort, knee discomfort. If I do crazy heavy shit, my knees ache. Good day. I don't get it all the time. It's not a problem all the time. I think only recently in my log did I say something to the effect of my knees are aching for no reason whatsoever. But you think how long I've been training and the crazy shit I'm doing, there might be a reason. And even then, it was only a day or two, Steve. There's no ongoing issues. If you've been an athlete with football and you've done MMA or something and you've damaged your knees, fair enough. If you've got a genuine, actual knee complaint, fair enough. I suspect, Steve, there's an element of my knees ache, it's hard, I want an excuse. This is why you're not necessarily training your legs hard. So part of what I'm going to do with you guys today is I'm going to be a tiny bit judgmental, but I'm also going to try and psych you the fuck up to go in there and do the crazy shit and get shit done from both Steve and I's experience, from the stuff that we see for ourselves. So again, training, proper leg training, isn't easy. You will need to work. You might need longer than you might need for chest or back or whatever else to recover. This is fine. But you kind of need to man the fuck up, grab hold of your balls and get inside the rack and squat. You might need to put some weight on the bar. You might need to do stuff like professional bodybuilders who don't necessarily need loads of weight, but will do pauses and holds with the muscle at the worst possible place for them to do it, on the leg extension or wherever else. And this shit hurts. It's not that I've hurt myself hurt. It's not that this weight is really, really heavy hurt. It's just that the weight is contraction. The pain in the muscle, the fatigue, the lactic acid is painful. And you're lowering the reps slowly, but you will see your quads pop. You will see muscular growth. So what do you think on that, Steve, in terms of how people train and what we sometimes see in the gym?
Yeah, and being judgmental about legs, there's the old adage, you want to really like, put someone down. You'll say someone, oh, you got chicken legs, oh, you got small legs, and then they got big upper body. There was a trend back in the 90s and 2000s where people would just train their upper body. And that type of teasing got so out of hand that now I think people realize, yeah, I've got to balance things out. So besides the teasing and all that, let's talk into the science behind it. It's very important to balance the muscles. Obviously, if you're competing in a bodybuilding competition, you go on stage and you got a terrific upper body and you've got no legs, obviously you're not going to do well. Or if you've got fantastic chest and shoulders, and then you turn around and you flex and you've got no back because you don't train your back. That's another thing a lot of people don't do, right? They don't train their back. That's for another podcast though. Obviously, you're going to get hit. The judges are going to hit you on that one. So it's very important to make sure that you balance the body. And the old cliche that I used to hear a lot in the 2000s and especially on forums is you got to build a tree has to build a strong roots and a strong trunk if it's going to flourish and have branches and have leaves and be green, right? So it's the same thing on your body. If you are a person, you're like, well, what do I care? I just do this to be vain. I just do this to show off my body, my upper body, to take pictures, to post on the internet or whatever. That's fine. But I'm telling you right now, if you don't balance things and you don't have a strong legs, as Mobster pointed out, you're not only strong in your legs, but you also don't build muscles in your legs. Guess what? Your upper body is going to suffer, and you're also going to deal with injuries because you're going to create imbalances all over your body where it's not equal. So, it's not, Arnold has always talked about in the past with bodybuilding, it's part of bodybuilding is an art where you want things to be balanced. You want your right bicep to be the same size as your left bicep. You want your right trap to be the same size as your left trap. When I first started weight training, my traps were complete. Like one trap was half the size of my other trap when I first started weight training. It's not because I was weight training and causing that. It was because just how it is. So the idea behind weight training is balancing things off from a visual standpoint. But when it comes from a powerlifting standpoint, it's the same thing. You don't want to be extremely strong with your upper body and be able to bench 3 plates, but then you can only squat 2 plates without, collapsing on the squat rack. That doesn't make any sense. You've got to be just as strong. And as Mobster pointed out, your leg muscles are supposed to be stronger than your upper body. So if you're doing 3 plates on the bench press, you should be doing at least 4 plates or more on the squats, and that's just how it is. So you have to balance out the body so to get the most results. So it's not just being judgmental. It's not just teasing people, making fun of people. There is a scientific basis behind it where it would be advantageous to you to have a proper balance and have those strong legs. Go ahead.
Yeah, let me cover that a little bit more, Steve. So here's the thing that people sometimes miss out on. There's an argument sometimes to be made, and a phrase that covered is you are leaving gains on the table. What do I mean by that? If you, Steve touched on it a little bit when he used the phrase about the foundation and the tree's roots. So there's an argument to be made that if you stimulate or stress your body, specifically the central nervous system to some degree with recovery, but basically causing the greatest amount of anabolism, i.e. the desire for your body to build muscle, some of that will come from doing the biggest, heaviest, hardest exercises you can do. You can't out volume an exercise. You can't If I do nothing but 1 rep maxi, Steve, I'm not causing my legs to grow. I am causing my legs to get very strong. But specifically, I'm causing my legs to get very strong in a particular way that may not be useful for anything else except that singular exercise. So the same thing applies in terms of, well, if I do 100 pounds on a squat or any leg exercise 100 times, my legs will grow. No, they'll grow more if you do 300 pounds and try to do some volume. It kind of works in that particular way that you are going to force your body to work. So, for example, your legs won't grow if you curl. Your legs won't grow if you press. Your legs will grow if you squat, if you leg press, if you leg extend, if you leg curl, if you do Romanian deadlifts. And here's a fucked up thing, and this is why you're leaving gains on the table. Your whole body will grow if you squat. Your whole body will grow if you do crazy weights and great volume, etc., on the other leg exercises, because you are causing such a stress on the whole of your body. Listen, if I put 500 pounds on my shoulders and I squat 20 reps, just holding that fucking bar on my shoulders and being able to stand still without shaking, just was going to work my core. It's going to work my biceps and my back, just pulling the bar down and locking it into position. It was a slide off my shoulders. Fuck me, it wants to go back on a rack, Steve. It doesn't want to be squatted. And then just my core keeps my lower back tight, my obliques tight, and my abs tight. Pushing out maybe against the belt that I'm wearing. If I'm not using the belt, just staying tight in that position. My legs want to shake. My calves want to shake. And now I'm supposed to squat up and down. Then I'm not supposed to squat up and down once. I'm supposed to squat up and down with that 500 pounds or whatever weight you guys can do multiple times, not just 10 or 12 reps, but 15 or 20 reps. And then I'm supposed to rack it, take goddamn ages recovering, and then come back and do another couple of sets. Trust me, it doesn't matter if it's 300 pounds or 500 pounds, even 100 pounds. If you've never done that kind of weight before, and I'm there and Steve's there and we're cheering you on and the rest of the podcast listeners are cheering you on, and you manage to get 3 sets of 12 to 15 reps with a weight that is stressful for you, and you go away and you have some nice food straight after, and you go every lay down, then you will recover. Let's move on to the next topic, Steve. I'll let you introduce it.
So let's talk about how we gotten stronger and bigger into legs and strategies. And look, I'm not going to lie to you guys. You know, someone with my body structure, it's going to be easier for me to do squats and build up my legs than someone who's tall and lanky. More your people, mobster, over there in Northern Europe. A lot of you are tall. You have long muscles. So for you guys, pulling exercises, rows are very good. You know, deadlifting, you're going to be better at deadlifting. But when it comes to squats, you're not going to be as good, you know, when you have long, lanky limbs. I think you're kind of in between a little bit. You're a tall guy, but you've got kind
I'm
of
a little bit,
thicker.
Steve. I think that sheer
Yeah.
time that I've been training has thickened me up a little bit. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm 6'3", guys. But Steve's a little bit shorter than I am, to say the least.
Yeah, I'm only a 5'5", 5'6". So look, bottom line is you can be shorter in height and still have long, lanky limbs, but it's not as common and vice versa. But my point is, look, for me, it was a lot easier to build my legs. I was kind of, you know, the skinny, fast kid, but I always had thick legs growing up, the thick quads, kind of like the Barry Sanders. If you guys know who that is, he's a running back. He used to be a running back in the NFL, one of the greatest running backs, but he was a short guy. He was only like 5'6", 5'7", but nobody could tackle him. He was too quick, and if people grabbed him, he would squirt away from them because he had such thick legs and such thick leverage, and he could squat like a shit ton of weight. But he was just gifted with these huge legs. So yes, there is a genetic element. I'm not going to lie and say that. So some of you out there, you're listening to this, you're like, man, I still can't grow my legs. I still can't grow my legs. And look, at the bottom line, you may never be able to grow your legs the way your peers that you're training with might be able to, but you can still improve. That's a good thing about weight training and bodybuilding. No matter what your genetics are, whatever your advantages and disadvantages, we all can go out there and get better and still improve no matter what. So,
Absolutely.
you know, but look, at the Bet Online, you're going to be training with someone and doing some of these exercises that we're going to talk about here. and you're going to notice that they improve quicker. They get stronger quicker. They build more size quicker. And that's going to be something you're going to have to accept. So just straight up. Now, the second part of that is we're going to talk about Beligas Pharma later on in the show. And using anabolic steroids will even the playing field a lot more than not. So if you're training with someone and they have tremendous genetics, right? And they're, squatting 4 plates and you're struggling to squat 3 plates, you're like, I can't, get as strong as them. Guess what? Using anabolic steroids can get you closer to them, even if you have inferior genetics. So that's the beauty part of why a lot of us use anabolic steroids. It's to give us that edge in the weight room. So obviously using anabolic steroids is the first step of how Mobster and I got so strong. We would not be able to squat and deadlift the amount of weight we do without anabolic steroids. Now, Mobster is going to be pushing for 900 pounds. And look, if it wasn't for the help of anabolic steroids, he'd probably be pushing for 650 pounds, okay? Which is still a shit ton of weight, but the anabolic steroids push him another 30, 40% higher.
Absolutely, Steve.
So that's this basically the second point I'm going to make. Number one, genetics, and number two, steroid use. So those are 2 ways that I've been able to excel when it comes to this. And those, some of you out there, like I said, you're going to be great at squatting. Other of you are going to be better at deadlifting. Other of you are going to be better at bench press. Some of you will be really good at pull-ups. So everybody's going to have advantages and disadvantages. So it just depends on each person's genetics, but definitely the steroid thing will be a big, big help. So we're going to get into steroid strategies shortly, but Mobster, first touch on some of the ways you've been able to get stronger and bigger.
Right. So back in my more bodybuilding days, I had a relationship from a distance, it has to be said, with the late Paul Borison, a big time drug steroid guru of note back in the 80s and 90s and very early 2000s before he done himself in, it has to be said. So anyway, one of the things he come up with, Steve, was something called the 100-day war. And the idea was that you spent 2 or 3 months of the year, 100 days, focusing on adding a certain amount of muscle tissue. And then you spent the rest of the year consolidating that muscle tissue. And then obviously another part of the year, so another 100 days, another third of the year would be getting ready to look amazing in great shape. So this 100-day war, which I decided to do, including for me, 2-week annual work holiday in the middle. And it included 50 rep sets of leg press, 50 rep sets of leg extension and leg curls, and a bunch of other stuff. I can't remember now because it was a long time ago. And I went up to, in the middle, this is the one particular workout I've touched upon earlier on. So I go to a gym called Ryan's Gym, Station Approach, Middle Sydenham, quarter of a mile, half a mile from my house. And I'm literally the only person in there apart from Ben Ryan, the owner. So I've got it to myself. And I think I did like an hour and a quarter's training, Steve. But it was 50 rep set leg extensions, 3 sets, going up in weight. And then on the last one, you do the 50 reps and then you drop set the weight 3 times. So you go from, let's say, 100 pounds to 75 pounds to 50 pounds. And this is one thing after another. You do as many reps as possible, and you drop it down and so on and so forth. I remember nearly fucking falling over and hurting myself, Steve, afterwards, because I couldn't physically pick my legs off the floor, my feet off the floor, enough that I nearly fell over and hurt myself on a ruck in the carpet that they had in the gym just before the counter. And I went over and had a protein shake, sat on this chair, dripping sweat, under the floor by the counter, much to the amusement of the gym owner. And again, there's only me and him in there, so I think he was okay with the fact I was fucking myself up and sweating everywhere. Staggered outside, and I could have walked down a hill normally. Walking up's going to be hard, but I couldn't even face walking down. Jumped on the bus, went home, had something to eat, lay on the sofa, and woke up 4 hours later with sore legs. So there was this element there for me trying to put muscle size and muscle growth and definition and shape and whatever else, where I was doing stuff that was really, to say the least, uncomfortable. And trying to cause stimulus and whatever else. I've also been lucky a couple of times through, when again in my bodybuilding phase, that I come across people that were particularly good at things, and we would push the envelope just to see what we were capable of. And I, younger person, not working crazy hard or in between jobs or whatever else, which is when I was doing the stuff, annual holidays and things like this, where I go away and come back 7 pounds heavier because I've just trained every other day and eat like a motherfucker while I'm on holiday. not even going away on actual holidays, staying at home, but just killing shit in the gym and chilling and eating more food or whatever else, and basically doing these things every so often to fuck myself up. Now, you don't have to work like that all year round. I was only doing it now and again, Steve, but this now and again was surprising the fuck out of my body and stimulating stuff. I remember the particular one where I put on the weight in the summer holidays, my annual holiday. I came back a new man. I was working in an office, and my work shirt and my work trousers didn't fit after 2 weeks, and the leg size stayed. I had to go get new trousers for work a few days later because it was uncomfortable sitting down because the fucking things are so tight. And that was in a 2 week. I think I trained 7 times, and only 2 or 3 of those sessions would have been legs. Later on, and this is in terms of the psychology and the stuff that I do now, and the psychology side of it, Steve, is I'm kind of comfortable with the idea of the numbers that Steve talked about earlier on. I get my head years ago, Steve, if you was squatting 700 pounds as a bodybuilder or even 650, they would put a picture of you in the magazine. 1980, 1990, you got your face in the magazine, a picture of you with that weight on your shoulders. I'm now psychologically that position when I've done the 700 pounds. I've done the 826 pounds. I'm psychologically looking at 9.5 fucking plates each side of a bar for a 900 pound 1 rep max. My brain is now comfortable because of what I've been able to do slowly but surely over the years with the idea of putting 9.5 plates on the bar and coming up and going down, So what about it? I train very simply, Stephen. So this is literally, I'll give you one example because there's 2 different examples, and it's only the main exercises that change. This is what I do for legs, and this is strength/muscle. So this first exercise is pure strength. I pick one of 3 exercises, either the Hatfield squat with safety bar, holding the frame, essentially like pulling yourself up out of a chair with a shitload of weight on your shoulders, and that's the one I've done the big weight on. The power squat machine, which is kind of like the calf raise machine, you call V squat sometimes, Steve, and essentially you're levering a weight up and down, and that's 1 week, and the other week is the Hatfield squat. And then finally, I have got something called a lever squat machine, which I own here in the house where we're talking right now as we record this show, and that's the other version. Pretty much the second exercise is always going to be some sort of leg press. The third exercise, which I actually superset with the 4th exercise, is leg extensions and leg curls. And let me give you an example again, Steve. Leg press is 3 sets. Leg extension is 2 sets, and I've done as little as 1 set. And leg curl is 2 sets. But again, I'm trying to use 3/4 of the stack, the whole stack. Currently on the leg extensions of my local gym, Steve, I'm using the whole stack for warm-ups, and then 1 leg at a time, 3/4 of the stack. On leg press at my local gym, I will go 200 kilos, 400 kilos, and then 600 plus kilograms. And 600 plus kilograms is 1,300, 1,400, 1,500 pounds. Again, this is what I'm doing. You don't have to do the same. You can vary that a little bit. You can have a squat variant that you like. Your leg press could be, you shouldn't be arguably, Steve, leg pressing only, because you kind of leave something on the table in terms of the squat. Leg extension, leg curl, there are ways of making those movements hard. If you're a bodybuilder, I would up the reps. I would have you doing 12 to 15 repetitions, not as low as what I might do, which might be 4 to 8 repetitions. Again, I'm trying to do heavy, crazy weights. And I would probably have you, again, as a bodybuilder, if that's your thing and muscles a thing, I would have you doing more sets than me. So I might do, as I said, 2 sets of leg extensions, 2 sets of leg curls. I'd probably leg extension, leg curls, guys, having you do 3 to 4 sets. But I would still try to push you in the direction of heavy weight. It might not be as heavy as what I am doing. It might be 400 pounds. It might be 300 pounds. And if that's your like 1 rep max, I'd probably have you doing 70, 80% of your 1 rep max, which would be 240, 250, 260 pounds. And having you try to get the numbers up to at least where I feel that you can assimilate muscle growth. And that would be around 12 to 15 and as high as 20 reps if you can do it. 20 reps, you are really going to be getting the old chest going in terms of your breathing. But certainly multiple sets, multiple reps. Another thing, and this is where I come from seeing what pro bodybuilders do, we've got competing and extra, or should I say former as well as previously full-time professional bodybuilders at my local gym. What I see from them, Steve, and you can touch upon this as well, is how they're able to get more from what seems to be a relatively simple exercise. I'm looking to move the weight from A to fucking B. They are holding it at B. They are holding it in a contracted position. They move the weight a lot slower than I do, and they're doing multiple sets. And what they're doing there is time under tension, which is literally just the sheer time that a rep takes to take place. There's no throwing the weight around, there's no momentum. And as hard as it might be to do, and trust me, I've done this, and I know Steve's done this, it's quite painful. They are deliberately doing that because they know that this is going to cause separation. They know that they can move their feet, different angles on their leg extensions, an example, on the leg press, even squat width variation, foot placement will emphasize certain muscle groups over other muscle groups. Feet together, feet wide, feet high on a platform, toes in, toes straight forward, toes out on the leg extension. Same thing on the leg curl, holding it in the contracted position on leg curls, holding it in the contracted position on leg extensions. For more of this kind of information, make sure you come onto the forums and we'll point you in the right direction. What kind of stuff have you seen and what sort of routines have you yourself done, Steve, to cause this kind of muscle growth, muscle size stuff that you've been able to do?
Yeah, so I've always trained my legs hard and once a week. That's been my strategy. So, and the idea behind it is you just pound them to death, right? For one time a week. And then the rest of the week, you do other muscle groups. And it's called, it's split routines. And split routines are something that works. And we've been doing this, pro bodybuilders do it, normal gym rats do it, all kinds of people do it, teenagers do it, doesn't really matter. But the whole idea is you train the shit out of your legs, you wear them to death, and then the rest of the week you train other muscle parts, and it allows your legs to rest during that time. Now I know people over the years who are training heavy in the gym, they'll do legs twice a week. But in their situation, what they'll do is they'll drop the volume down. So they'll do maybe 40 or 60% of the volume. And then once in a while, maybe every 4 to 5 weeks or every 6 weeks, then they'll go really, really heavy once a week to really push themselves and go 2-3 rep maxes to really see if they can max out. And that's the strategy that some people will do as well. But for me, Mobster, it's always been train the shit out of my legs once a week. And you got to keep in mind, if you're doing cardio as you should, at least 5 times a week, hopefully every day, if you have the opportunity and you have the time to be doing everyday cardio, which is great for your heart. Your heart is a muscle as well. And that's going to help you build stronger legs too. You're also working your legs on those days when you do cardio. If you go for a jog or if you go bicycle riding or you go for a walk or you do some treadmill at the gym, elliptical, whatever, you're still training your legs even in that way. So it's not like we're just letting our legs just completely go dead. Now, I don't know if you just sit on your ass all day for your job and, and then afterwards you just go to bed and you barely walk, then I can see how that was. Even in my example, I can remember when I first had an apartment, I got a puppy, and puppies and apartments don't mix. But in my case, I was having to walk my puppy like 5 times a day. And then even during the night, it'd wake me up crying because they wanted to go out. Puppies have to pee and poop like all the time. They're like babies, So I would be walking like all around my apartment complex all the time. And that right in there was a leg workout, So, and then when I got a house that had a backyard, I didn't have to walk my puppy as much. So I ended up actually gaining a lot of weight because I wasn't doing the walking. So even some walking is still training. It's not like you're not training your legs at all. So you got to remember, once a week hitting it hard is plenty to get good results if you're combining it with some of the other stuff we're talking about. So that could be a strategy you try. And as Lobster said, it's very hard to sit here on this podcast and kind of teach you on how to weight train. But Mobster gave you some good tips, and come on the forum and read some of these logs and see how people are training. It's right there in black and white where you can see how people are doing, what they're doing for their leg days and all the different things. And what Mobster said earlier too is very important about proper equipment. You can still go work at Planet Fitness, and a lot of the stuff, that about them taking the pins out of the machine, a lot of that is just people trying to get clicks to videos. I mean, I've trained at Planet Fitness. I have never seen anything like that. So a lot of that is just like, marketing tactics and stuff like that. But look, the bottom line is if you do work out at a place like Planet Fitness, you could still get like a squat rack and put it in your garage and still do squats at home and do deadlifts and do cleans and stuff like that build up the strong legs. So there's options around where you're training. You can't use that as an excuse. Oh, I train at Planet Fitness, I can't do my legs properly. No, that's bullshit. You can
Yeah.
still do lunges at Planet Fitness. You can still do box squats at Planet Fitness with dumbbells, holding dumbbells. There's lots of different things you can do still, no matter what gym you go to. Even just having a fucking, not even having a gym, you could just fucking get some fucking, you see these prisoners on these videos who get jugs of water on each side of a big
Yep.
stick, and they do squats and they do lunges and
But,
stuff like that to work
yep.
their legs. So
Buddies
there's
on
really,
their shoulders, Steve.
yeah,
People sitting on
there's
the
all kinds of
ups.
ways.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's all kinds of ways to do it. When I was a kid, I'd come home from school, there was a tree, and I jump on the tree and I do a bunch of pull-ups as soon as I got home. So that was my thing. So I never even had a pull-up machine or a rack or anything to do pull-ups. I would just use the tree branch to do pull-ups. So there's all kinds of ways to do it. You really can't use any excuses going forward. So I'm sort
Yeah,
of
let me
finish up.
just touch on that just before we move on, Steve. Right. So here's the thing, and especially if Steve and I were coaching you, or indeed anybody that knows what they're doing was coaching you. If you haven't got a legitimate excuse, what is your excuse? So what do I mean? I will see people say, "Oh, my gym hasn't got a rack." What do I reply, Steve? Go to another gym. Top professional bodybuilders will go to another gym just to train on a piece of equipment or to train their legs, for today's example, and then spend the rest of the week at their local gym because their local gym's got everything they need except for leg training. I have given pieces of equipment to my local gym. My local gym just yesterday asked me if I could look out for some tried grip plates because they want to replace some of the plates in their gym, and where could we source these from at a good price. That's the sort of stuff that I'm bringing to the table, and that enables me to train like a motherfucker at those places and try not to bend their bars and all that kind of stuff, right? So, I don't want to hear excuses. If you haven't got a medical issue with your back, your spine, your hips, your knee, your ankle, get the fuck in there and do some work. And listen, right? We slightly tongue in cheek with the whole Planet Fitness thing, like Steve said, clicking and the comments that people make on whatever else. We did an interview with one of our members that's developing a very nice physique at Planet Fitness. There are intensifiers you can do, but trust me, what you're looking to do is get really uncomfortable into that place that makes you grow muscle. And the hardest thing for you to do when it comes to that stuff is legs. So we get it. It can be easier not to do it. It can be easier to wear long shorts. What we're going to do today, and what we're finished on here right now, before we talk about steroids, is really just get your mind into that being comfortable with being uncomfortable kind of thing, being comfortable with big weights, being comfortable with the pain and discomfort, not injury, but pain and discomfort that true, brutal leg training gives you in order for you to stimulate muscle growth, not just in your legs, but every single fucking muscle in your body, so that you turn into that beast in the gym that you want to. Now, we get it. We understand it. Not every listener wants to squat 700 pounds. Not every listener wants legs like Tom Platz. But if you want to enhance your physique, specifically your legs, and transform your body, get comfortable with hard work, get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and especially on fucking leg day. And just like Steve, I only train my legs once a week. Top professionals, Steve, one more tip before we go into the next section is literally what we see as a quad dominant workout and a glute or hamstring dominant workout, hamstring specific. I think Ronnie trained like that. Some of the others do. And it's literally because if they're squatting, if they're leg pressing, if they're leg extension, etc., kind of routine is so goddamn hard, they feel like they're not putting as much energy as they should do into the muscles that you can't see from on the back of the leg. And so they will save that for another day. And typically that would be a really brutal session on a Monday, and then it'd be a slightly less brutal session with the hamstrings and the other muscles on a Thursday. And that's just as an example. But again, big weights, big muscles, etc., etc. Now, I'm going to take an approach on the steroids here, Steve, because I've sort of gone out with the train your ass off, motherfuckers. I'm going to go with some hardcore options, and Steve's going to go with some mild options. Steve, you want to start with the mild options for growing legs using Beligas products?
Yeah, and look, at the end of the day, side effects are a real thing. With we just had a guy post yesterday, I think, Mobster on the forum talking about he's had a history with the police being called out to his house because he's gotten into fights with his wife, and he's
Yeah, I saw that.
had
Yep.
road rage incidents. And I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, stay away
You
from the
asked about
harsher.
trend, we said no.
You got to stay away from the
Yeah.
harsher steroids. And that,
Yeah.
so some of you out there, maybe that situation, but some of you out there are worried about your health. You want to go the mild option. So
Yes.
look, anabolic steroids, they're going to help you. Okay. Whether you take a little bit, whether you take a mild, whether you take a hardcore, whatever, they're going to help you. So one of the steroids that I like a lot, and I know Mobster, you're going to talk about it as well in the advanced steroid stack, but one of the steroids I like a lot for strength, and it can be a mild option, is Dianabol. And Dianabol, look, it's the number one used oral steroid of all time for a reason. It's cheap, it's dummy proof. Those of you listening to this who's struggling, you're struggling on your squats, you're struggling on your to do your deadlifts, you're struggling on your legs, you want to build them up. Dynabol is a great option. Dynabol can be used anywhere from 10 milligrams a day up to 50 milligrams a day. But if you go on the higher end of the range, you want to make sure you also grab the Beligas Aromacin, and Arimidex would be also a good option. They're both aromatase inhibitors, and they will help with the water retention. So, but the Beligas Dianabol is so well priced. You can buy a lot of it for less than the price to get your car washed. Like you can buy an entire cycle for less than the cost to go get your car washed. So it's very affordable. And looking, you can go 4 weeks, you can go 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks at the max with Dianabol, and that's a good mild cycle. You don't have to do injections or anything like that. Now, another option you could do when it comes to building some strength, that's a mild option if you want to go the injectable route, is you can go with equipoise. And equipoise is a great option because what equipoise does in the body is it does a lot of the good things that steroids do, but it's a more mild option. You're not going to get water retention on equipoise. The way it's structured is it's a slow builder in the body, and you're going to want to use anywhere from 300, some guys go up to 600 milligrams, and then you can throw in a little testosterone from Belagas as well. But the nice thing, Belagas has different testosterone options. They have different equipoise options to fit your needs. So I would go 300 to 600 milligrams of equipoise, and then throw in a little testosterone, maybe 100 or 150 milligrams of testosterone, just to give the cycle a little kick. And that would be a mild cycle to really help you build your legs and go harder in the weight room as well. Mobster?
As Steve knows, I'm a huge fan of Dynamo, and I'm definitely a huge fan, for that matter, on the strength side for Anavar. And quite personally, when this is a sort of cycle that I would normally run, but I'm also going to give you a sort of psycho, get you into the right fucking frame of mind example using Beligas products. So let's just use the Dynabol and the Anavar example for a minute now, Steve. Anavar for me works great for strength. And for example, when I did the 826 pounds earlier this year, that was on Anavar. I've done a bulk cycle prior to that and a cut cycle prior to that late last year. Bulk cycle got me up to 100, was it 336 pounds. Cut cycle, I recomposition like a motherfucker. And I've said about this on other shows, which you can listen to. The bulk cycle was Sustanon and Deca. It works great for me again, but I just did Anavar, 50 milligrams a day. And I think that was it, Steve, off the top of my head, for my strength, and works for me fine. But again, I might be a good responder. I've had a long time training, etc., etc. So about 30 to 50 milligrams a day of D-Bolt, 4 to 8 weeks. Same again with the Anavar, Steve, 50 milligrams a day, 6, 7, 8 weeks. I think my most recent one was 4 weeks deliberately, peaked my strength, and then went into that. What about psycho stuff? So again, like Steve said earlier on, we're not recommending this if you have mental issues like the member that he referred to. Literally, we said training is not for you if you've got those kind of issues. And to be fair, Steve, although he might have been, exaggerating how crazy the motherfucker was, he was asking the right question. If this is how I am without trend, what will we be like without trend? And we said trend's not for you, motherfucker. It will enhance stupidity in that particular regards. If you're a mild-mannered kind of guy and you want to give training a go, then you should still be a mild-mannered kind of guy, but you have maybe a little bit more of an edge, a bit more of aggression. And maybe for a short period of time, this is an option that you could go for. So I'm pushing a boat out here, Steve. They have a tri-trend, which is 150 milligram. Let me give you another example. A Tri-Test Pro 400, 100 milligrams of tesipinate, 100 milligrams of test enanthate, and 200 milligrams of test decanate. The Tri-Trend, 150 milligrams. Why don't you combine those two? Now that's 550 milligrams. That would take you, if you did that, 4 mil in total. That's 1 mil of each, 2 times a week. That's going to take you slightly over the gram, which is about the limit for me in terms of what my personal preference for. But the combination of the trend with high levels of testosterone, over a gram a week for most users, Steve. And at that point in your training where you want to fucking take things up another notch would be, for me, absolutely the way to go. Those are 2 Beligas products that they have right there, Steve. What about for you, a sort of edgy, pushing a boat out kind of way to do that kind of stuff? And also, again, let me just touch on this as well. I want to compound this point in terms of the amount of time. I would not want to run that cycle for 12 or 16 weeks. Certainly, as we occasionally see on the forums, 20 weeks. Forget that. What I'm looking for you guys to do is perhaps something milder, like Steve's already suggested at the beginning, let's say 4 to 6 weeks. And then for the last 4, maybe 6 weeks, push it out in terms of my Tri-Trend and my Tri-Trest products, suggestions from Beligas, just taking it out there so that that part of the training when it's really getting brutal, really getting heavy, when you're really killing the reps, that level of aggression or enhanced focus and ability to push under the iron, plus you've prepped your body, will take you, I think, Steve, to the next level. What do you think about that in terms of pushing out the hardcore stuff and the latter part of a training cycle using that combination?
Yeah, so I hit a all-time PR on squats. I want to say it was back in 2014, so it was about 10 years ago. This was when I was peaking with my strength before all my injuries kind of hit me, and I had to kind of back away from going heavy. But I was using the trend and I was using the Turinabol. So Belagas has really good Turinabol as well. And it's a very underrated steroid. But the nice thing about Turinabol is it's cheap and it's very mild. And when you use something mild with trend, it's a good thing because it limits the side effects. So one of the things I hated when I was on trend was the side effects, the fatigue, the dehydration, all that stuff. So adding something androgenic with trend isn't always a good idea. Another thing too, I would be wary of is using something like Winstrol when you're going heavy. So if you want to build up your legs, okay, that's one thing. But
Yeah.
Winstrol when comes to your joints, and a lot of times
Yes.
people don't understand this. But I've talked to guys over the years. I've done interviews with them on the podcast who were older than you, Mobster.
Yeah.
And the big problem that they run into is the hips. Because what
Yes.
ends up happening is you wear your body down. Everyone says all elbows and knees all the time, right? But when you're doing these heavy leg sessions,
Mm.
if you're bothering your knees, there's a 99.9% chance that you're also fucking up your hips. And what
Yes.
happens is when you get older, you're going to end up needing a hip replacement. And we're talking $250,000, Mobster, for a hip replacement in America. That's a lot of money. So you don't
It's
want to
cheaper.
be.
It's cheaper here, Steve, but it's still an issue. My lady friend Carolyn's had a hip replacement, and my right hip ached after the session I did Monday recently.
Yeah.
Just to give you an example. So yeah, absolutely, Steve.
So I'd be careful with Winstrol if you're going to go heavy. But if you're going
Yeah.
to go light and you want to go more high repetition when it comes to your leg training and you're not worried so much about strength, then Winstrol could work. Same thing with Masteron. Same thing with really any DHT derivative. But I hate to be cliched, but I'd rather you stick to the more other steroid groups that are non-DHT. So the Equipoise of the world, the and Anavar and Turinabol, by the way, are DHTs, but they're mild DHTs. So I'd
Yes.
rather you
Yes.
stick with the Equipoises of the world, the testosterones, the Sustanon, which is a testosterone blend, the
Yeah.
Tren, but use it, within reason. Those are really, really good options when it comes to strengthening your legs. And at the end of the day, Mobster, look, I'll leave it with this: testosterone. A lot of people just use testosterone and you just jack up the dose to 500 or 750 milligrams a week. And that can be a very advanced and aggressive cycle in its own right. And you can use that, or you could stack testosterone with something like anadrol or with something like Dianabol. And you'd have really good strength benefits from it if you want to build your legs up via strength. So those are a couple more options you can do. And look, Beligas has so many testosterone and sustenance
Oh,
options.
good, yeah, so
So
many,
no
so
matter
many.
what you're looking for, you'll be able to find it at Beligas. I really like that about them, Mobster. They have so many different options.
Let me give you one more example, and this is just something you could do for yourself, guys, right? So you're in a gym, killing legs, and you've listened to this show, and growth is starting to happen, strength's starting to happen. You can go a little tiny bit crazy, and we're talking about PEDs again, and specifically for Beligas. Just for the last couple of weeks, as the cycle's about to finish, when your strength is about to max out and your muscle size is about to max out, you're just about getting to that point where growth is just starting to stop a little bit. The stimulus is just starting to take a step back, and there's not much left, much more you can do on this particular training cycle, this 8-week, 12-week training cycle, where you can take the body that much further, and you need to ease back off. You need to back the fuck down 20%, and then have a break, and then come back at it again later in the year and increase it again. So one of the things you can do, like Steve said, just use it to try test again. This is an example, Steve. You could low dose that, say 400 to 600, 800 milligrams using that product for 6 or 8 weeks, and then up it to the 800,000 plus milligrams, like I've already talked about, for the last couple of weeks, just the last couple of weeks, where you're pushing, quote unquote, the toxicity in terms of the impact of the steroids on your body, in terms of side effects specifically, but also at the same time, this is where the part of the training, whether it's sets and reps for bodybuilding or poundage for muscle, for strength, is at the absolute maximum that your body's capable of doing at that particular point, and you're just tipping it over to give yourself that last 5 or 10% more size, or last 5% more strength. So as an example, Steve, and I'll just use this last little bit here, Halo. I don't get on with Halo. It doesn't seem to have much of an effect on me, but why not do it for the last couple of weeks? In fact, that's probably about as long as I'd want you to run it for, as 100%. And they do a 10 milligram option of their. There's a couple of different products that they do, but they're both 10 milligram options in terms of the Halo testing. And then something else, Steve, which I'm going to probably only do maybe. And this is another fucked up idea. Run an easy, simple, safe to moderate kind of cycle, and literally the day of the cycle, or the day of the legs training session, Steve, 1 mil of test suspension. That's just 100 milligrams, because they do a testo sus, and that's 100 milligrams the day or the night before, or certainly the morning before of your training in the gym for legs, just to enhance the aggression, just to give yourself that bit more of an edge. Look, let me finish with the thoughts before we talk about Beligas as well. Right, let me start with Beligas, actually, Steve. Like, so we did a couple of shows recently, and the first show, me and Steve were blown away by the variety, the different options of what we've already seen in terms of steroids, but there were so many different variations and options that we hadn't seen, or combinations. And the thing one I said about that, and that Steve and I agreed on, was it's kind of like they've done the work for you. And the analogy that I gave then, Steve, was you look at the kind of cycles that most people are doing. We know that most suppliers will provide you Dianabol, Anavar, Anadrol, and so on and so forth. And they let you, with one or two exceptions, mix up these products the way that you want to be used. But then you go, okay, what's the most common testosterone cycle? 500 milligrams. What kind of testosterone? Cypionate and Amphac. Okay. Beligas have done that for you. They've got 400 milligram products. They've literally got products where they combined the same steroid cycle, the same stack that you put together for yourself. They allow you to do that for yourself by giving you the singular products. And then they produced a blend that has exactly those same ratios in the product. I'm just looking at literally the website just now, Steve. They do different versions of Primobolan. I'm looking at Winstrol, orals, combinations of orals. And I'm on the oral page right now. The Halo testing, as I said to you, comes in 10 milligram options. There's different versions of that. On the injectable page that I was looking at a few minutes ago, they have done the work for you. I also like the pill sizes, the pill count, the way that they produce the products. Something I said that I like to see, and especially in a company like Beligas, They are an actual, as I believe we discussed on a previous show, it's an actual pharmaceutical company based in Belgium. I don't mean a company like we discuss quite often that produces steroids, what we would call an approved source, but still a UGL, not literally underground, but necessarily not a legitimate pharmaceutical company. Beligas is a legitimate pharmaceutical company based in Belgium, an actual company that produces pharmaceutical products for the mass market, as well as products like we're discussing right now for you, the steroid user who wants to get bigger muscles and stronger muscles. What do you think about Beligas, Steve, before I do the final thoughts and the talk out?
Look, anabolic steroids work. I talked about it earlier in the podcast. They work incredibly well. They're going to help you even the playing field, even if you struggle to build up your legs, even if you struggle with strength to your legs, which some of you might. But here's the thing, most anabolic steroids out there are fake, and most are underdosed. And most have things in them like heavy metals and other harmful things that you're injecting into your body or you're taking orally. So we don't want that. We want to put quality in our body, okay? Just like we eat organic, we eat hormone free, we eat antibiotic free foods. We make sure we always check for additives in our food. Same thing with our steroids. We don't want to put junk in our body that's completely unnecessary. And we want to make sure when we buy from any source or any brand that we're getting what we claim. So Balagas, they are legit. They produce their products in a legitimate facility, as Mobster said. They have had their products independently and anonymously tested without their knowledge. They've been sent off and tested. And guess what? They came back 100% what they claim. The Anavar, the Primo, the Equipoise, the Trend, the testosterone, all the steroids that we've talked about on this podcast, and all the steroids that they have on their website that they're selling. Guess what? We've had them tested and they've come back legit, okay? Without their knowledge. It's not like we said, well, we're going to test your products out on the forums. Send us some products and we'll go test it out. That's what other sources do on other forums. We don't do that on Evo. We anonymously will purchase the products and have them tested ourselves. That tells us that what they're selling to everyone else is going to be good to go. And that's very important because why would you buy something that's not what you claim to buy? It doesn't make any sense. It's like going and buying a Lamborghini that really has a Hyundai engine or a Ford engine. It doesn't make any sense. So we want to make sure that we don't get ripped off, and we want to make sure that we're putting quality in our body always. So Beligas Pharma is the way to go, and that is why they're a trusted brand. This is why I use them. This is why Mobster uses them. This is why professional bodybuilders and professional powerlifters out there use them, and average Joes use them. So they're a great brand, and their prices are fantastic, Mobster. They make everything affordable. They have pricing power because they produce in bulk. So they're able to sell their products at a really fair price. Finish up your thoughts, Mobster.
Listen, guys, if you're not pushing your asses in the gym to train your legs properly, if you're not getting under the goddamn bar, if you're pussyfooting your way out of squats and heavy leg presses, if you're not doing the rest pause, if you're not really putting your heart and soul into this stuff, and I don't care whether you want to be a crazy freak strongman, a crazy freak powerlifter, or make Tom Platz cry when he sees your quads. I don't care, and I don't care if you don't want that. If you don't want all those particular things that are going to make people stop and look at your legs in the street, maybe that's not your thing. But if you're not putting some effort into your legs, you're leaving something. But if you do want crazy muscles, if you do want crazy strength, if you do want to go up there and flip fucking 500 kilogram tires, get your ass into the gym. Doesn't matter where you train. There are tricks and there are techniques. Do not be that man sitting on the leg press with the 5 kilos each side of the bar on your fucking mobile, scanning fucking Instagram and Snapchat or whatever, and talking to your buddies. Be the bitch that's fucking getting more tired taking the place on and off because it's so goddamn heavy. And you have to check your underpants to see if you fucking shit yourself or there's blood coming from a nostril. Be that motherfucker. Show the other bitches in the gym, male or female, how this shit gets done. If I'm just motivating you to get juicy and you go out there and do some crazy shit, good. And if you then do that with Beligas products to support your fucking journey, great. If you want to go hardcore for 5 minutes, I'll give you some suggestions. Do that stuff in the cycle. I'm still kind of holding back on the safety stuff, Steve, because I'm thinking about your long-term health. Listen, guys, come onto the forums, get your juices going by seeing what people are doing in logs. Come and look at the fucking black and white pictures that I'm posting up and the stupid stuff that I'm doing, just as a way of making you want to fucking show that mobster how this shit is properly done. Come and show Steve with his stumpy fucking tree trunk legs. This is how fucking muscles are supposed to look. Fuck us up. Show us how this shit is done. Tell us how you're training your legs. If we cycling you up, have you trained your legs a different way? Have you got amazing legs where you haven't had to train them hard? We want to know. Come onto the forums. Talk about it in the comments below. But what I don't want to see is excuses why you can't do things. I need a note from your mum and a note from your doctor. Just joking, guys. See how this stuff goes. Please note, we are not doctors and the opinions are ours. It is our view and based on our experience and views on the topic. Our podcast is for informational purposes and entertainment only. The freedom of speech and the First Amendment applies.